Hi, welcome to PegLuksik.online. I'm PegLuksik, and in today's episode of Teaching at Home, we're going to be talking about the Dolch words. Now, this is a reading subject, and it's appropriate for children beginning in grades 1 through 3. As we move forward, you'll see if your kids haven't mastered this, you want to make sure you pick it up, but especially in the early grades, if you are trying to teach reading for the first time and you're looking for a focus, start here. So let's start with some definitions. What are the Dolch words? The Dolch words are actually a list of 220 words that were discovered by a researcher, Dr. Dolch, to be the most used words. They're service words in the English language. Numbers like to and for, articles the, helping verbs was, have, would, could, should. Many of them don't sound out easily or at all, but they are the words that are used in pretty much every sentence ever written in English. You will find one or more of the Dolch words. So when you are starting to teach reading with little ones, these are the words that you want to use as sight words. What's a sight word? A sight word is a word that you don't sound out. You see it and you pronounce it. The Dolch words, being fundamental sort of service words throughout the language, make the best sight words because they enable your child to move more smoothly through the sentences. And because they don't sound out easily in many cases, trying to stop and sound them out is very, very difficult for little ones. And so you add to frustration, you make the reading process go slower. So when you start reading, the sight words you want to look at, you want to use, are the Dolch words. Now, many textbooks try to make every content word inside the reading lesson as a sight word. And that's not really how you teach reading. But these words, because they are so fundamental, and because many of them don't follow phonics rules, give your child a real foundation to be able to move forward. Now, how do you teach words like this? And just so you know, there's a list of the 220 words available on the website, so you don't have to go searching for them. You can just download it. They're in alphabetical order. What do you do with them? Take the words, put each one on a separate index card. Print them. Don't cursive write them, because when you print them, they'll look the way they will look in the book that the little one is reading. Start through with your child. Now, if they're in first grade, you won't get very far until you get 7 that they don't know. And you can kind of make it a game, that you hold up the word, and if they know it, they get to keep the card. And if they don't know it, you get to keep the card. And so it's kind of a contest. How many cards do they get to keep, and how many cards do you get to keep? When you get to 7 that they don't know, stop. Those 7 words become the words that you use to introduce every reading lesson. Those are the sight words that you use, just those 7. When they can call them immediately, without thinking about it, without stopping to try to sound it out, but they can immediately on sight, instantaneously recognize the word, put a little line on the back of the card. Now that's called automatic. What's the difference between automatic and fluent? If you and I were talking and I said, what time is it? You would glance down at your watch and you would tell me what time, and neither of us would interrupt our chain of thought. You actually did about 7 things when you looked at your watch and a time popped into your head. But those 7 things are so ingrained in your mind that you don't have to stop what you're doing to think about those things. They all happen automatically, and the time pops into your head without interrupting anything else that you're doing. That's automatic. Fluent, I stop and think about it. Now, I may think about it easily. For example, if I'm fluent in phonics, I'm going to sound out the word fairly quickly, but I am going to sound it out without interruption, and I'm going to be focusing on the sounding out of that word in that moment. Automatic just pops in my head, and I don't think about it. You want the Dolch words to be automatic. You want the child to that they're so familiar that as soon as they see it, there it is, and we're moving forward, and they don't have to search for it. They don't have to try to sound it out. They don't have to look for context. You want it to be automatic. How do you make something automatic? You make it so it moves from the short-term memory to the long-term memory. Now, in advertising, it's called the law of the seventh mentioning. That's why you see some commercials so often, because advertisers know that the first time you see it, maybe you actually focused on it and maybe you didn't. But if 7 times in a row it has actually hit your memory that you focused on it, you'll now remember it. And so it circles through. So when you do the Dulce words, you start with 7 that they don't know. You start every reading lesson with, we're going to review the 7 words. If they get it right on the back of the card, just put a little mark. And if they get it right the second time, you put a little mark. When you have 7 little marks on the back of your card, you can move it into the I know this pile. And then go back into your list and start the game again until you get 1 more. So you always are working on 7. You don't start with 7 and then they know 1 and now you're moving to 14. You're only ever working on 7 at a time. And so as 1 comes out, go back through and add that 1 in. Once a week, generally on Fridays, review all the cards. You can make it a pile race. You can make it a timed race. And you keep a chart so they can track how long it took them to do the words that they know. And so you have like a little race course with timelines and they can kind of track how they're doing. You can track how many they know in how much time. Did you get 10 every minute or however you want to do it? That's limited by your imagination. You can make a match game where you have 2 of every card. And you play, the memory game that kids like to play, and they have to flip them over and match the cards, but they have to say the words as they're flipping them over. So you're playing the memory match game, but at the same time, you're reviewing the words. Now, only do that with words they already know. So now it's automatic. You're building that automaticity, but you're playing another game. If you Google Dulce words, you will find a plethora of worksheets and activities online, if you like, that you can use to help reinforce those words. 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, you really want them to know all the words automatically by the time they get through there. Now, if you have an older child and that child is a problem reader, go back and pick up the Dulce words, because you're going to alleviate a bunch of the problems and make things so that you're focusing on particular phonics skills that you want or particular comprehension skills that you want. But those underlying words, those 220 service roads, become automatic for them. And often that helps to alleviate a lot of the frustrations. The goal is to make sure that they know all 220 words automatically. And if you've accomplished that, you've done a great deal toward putting them on a road to successfully learning to read moving forward. So if you are a parent and you're working with kids in grades 1 through 3, start with the Dulce words and make sure that your child knows all 220 of them automatically by the time that you are done this school year or moving forward. And you will have accomplished a great, great deal. Next time, we're going to focus on grades 4 through 6 in reading. I'll see you then.